Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Quick Gains, where we are presented with quite an awesome person. This is a lady who is a social media trainer. She's the founder of Cambridge Social Media. She's also the founder and she's basically the person behind Cambridge Social Media Day events, which used to be in person. They are now virtual, for the time being at least. I give to you Lenka Koppova. Did I pronounce that right?
Hi, guys.
Ah, damn it. I got it nearly right.
It's a Slavic name. It's a Slavic name, so the pronunciation is a little different. But anyway, everyone knows me as Lenka anyway. No one cares about my surname.
So how's things? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. So right now, you are not where you normally used to be in UK, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm usually based in Cambridge, UK, where obviously I started my community and my events, which it's why it's very creatively called Cambridge Social Media or Cambridge Social Media Day, because
That must have taken a long time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not the most creative person in this way, so I came up with like, I'm in Cambridge, I do social media, I would set up a community, Cambridge Social Media community. But yeah, currently I'm not in Cambridge, I'm not in the UK. I've been back home in the Czech Republic, staying with my mom for almost a year now, due to, the current pandemic situation as well as some family stuff. But the beauty of social media and the world that we live in, and in a way the pandemic is working out for me, because it's, for me, running online events, it really doesn't matter if I'm running online events from Cambridge or from anywhere else.
Yeah, and to be fair, you literally do it from a beach. You probably prefer a beach, to be fair, wouldn't you? But you
I would
do it from a beach on your phone.
And that was the dream, and that was the plan where I started my business, when I started this community, to one day allow me to run this from a beach somewhere in Thailand. But for the time being, I have to, just take our mountains as a replacement.
Mountains? Really?
Well, we live in the foothills of mountains, so I have a lovely hilly landscape, and not more than half an hour I have proper mountains.
That sounds nice. I've never actually been there. I've been to the Ukraine. I've been there. So Lviv, so it's the western part of Ukraine. So I've been there. Lovely.
Yeah.
I think I've been to Prague once. I've never been anywhere apart from Prague.
That's the majority of people. Majority of people, they will know Czech Republic as Prague, as the cheap booze, as the place to go for, bachelorette, bachelor parties and stuff like that. They will very rarely leave the country, knowing that we have great ski resorts for winter skiing and stuff like that, much cheaper than anywhere in Alps, that we have a beautiful nature filled with medieval history, so lots of castles and very beautiful kind of places to explore, that we have beautiful lakes and rivers where you can enjoy. The one thing we don't have is sea, because obviously we're in the middle of the land. But the rest of it, we have great food, we have lovely nature, lovely history. But most people will know us only for Prague and our cheap beer.
To be fair, I went there with my dad, and funny random story, but I basically had tickets for a long weekend in Prague, and I had tickets for another long weekend a few months later in Berlin. Dumped the girlfriend who I was actually going to be going to those places with. Thought it was a bit of a waste to just not use the tickets. All my friends were working, and my dad was like, well, I'm self-employed, I don't care, I like cheap beer, so shall we go? And I was like, okay. So I ended up for going to a couple of long weekends away with my dad, Prague and Berlin. And the first thing he wanted to do was go and get a beer, and it was just, I don't drink myself, but this thing was like massive. It was almost like half a bucket of lager. Yeah. And he had one of them, he was done, finished. It was very funny watching my dad sort of like sway on his way back to the hotel after one pint.
Yeah, we do like our beer here. We do like our lager beer with like proper big beer glasses, and we do like to have the foam, kind of the hat on it, to really look picture square. Yeah.
So we went into, where was it? I can't remember for the life of me the name, but it was we were going to go in like, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but it's like Wenceslas Square. What's the main square?
Wenceslas Square.
That one. Yeah, you pronounce it better, obviously. we were going to go there or nearby there for something to eat, and it was just like tacky and like bachelors parties and strip clubs and things. So we just weren't interested in that. And we were pointing in the direction of the more kind of locals place, which is the other side of the river. And we ended up going to this random restaurant that went down into a cellar somewhere. That was kind of like this, it's almost like a caveman themed thing. And you kind of go down the steps, and there's like the head of a massive woolly mammoth as you're going down the steps. And it was just very, very strange. But I tell you what, the food in there was insanely good, like so nice. And it cost the whole thing, drinks and everything, 3-course meal. We were both stuffed. We have to like roll ourselves out the door. It was something like 12 quid.
That's one of
I
the
loved
things,
it.
especially if you go just a little of the main touristy trail and you visit anywhere, and out of Prague, it gets much, much, much cheaper anyway. But yeah, we do have this decor is quite typical. We will have lots of kind of underground cellar kind of style beer houses or wine cellars, but they will also have great food, kind of some nibbles or main meals. And yeah, the food is really great. And obviously the level of economy and prices is different, especially if you're bringing kind of British income and British expectations in terms of money, then yeah, spending here, it's quite cheap.
Well, coming from London, put it that way, to there, I was happy. I was like moved. I was like, wow, how much can my flat for here? I want to live here. Can I work remotely? I can work remotely. I don't think my wife now would like that personally, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe one day.
Oh, yeah.
So we digress slightly. So you're in Czech Republic right now. Cambridge social media and social media community. It's definitely expanded beyond Cambridge, let's say. So the speakers you had last year, how far did they come from? Because there was quite a few, wasn't there?
Yeah. So obviously Cambridge social media started as just my tiny little project for my Cambridge social media community, or for my community. It started as a monthly meetup where I saw it as an opportunity, A, to practice my public speaking and get a little bit more comfortable in front of people, and B, as an option to then help little more people on the lower cost rather than one-to-one, because obviously then my time was limited and I wanted to help more people. So it was like, how can I help more people? Well, let's bring them once a month for a free informal event. And then it started growing. And when I started planning the first annual conference, which was 2018, then I was already went to so many conferences myself because I love traveling. I'm single. I'm not I don't need to be at one place. So I love traveling around the UK, exploring different conferences, becoming part of different memberships. And I got to meet lots of people. So that's where I started looking for some speakers out and about. And I was very lucky that by the time I started to becoming friends with Andrew and Pete, it was just at a time where they were just big enough, but not way too big, the way they're like big now. And I just met them at Newcastle Startup Week, and we started chatting. And they were very sweet. We're like, oh, we're coming down to London for like Upreneur and some other event. And we actually have a gap in the calendar, so we will try to come and support. And it was like, so if you're kind of free to come and support, would you be free to come and keynote? And out of nowhere, they were like, yeah, sure, we will find a way. So, and from there, because I loved Newcastle, I started building more connections with people in Newcastle, and I traveled to London. Then, yeah, we got speakers from all around the UK who came to Cambridge for our event to share, their insights and their knowledge with our community, which also then attracted attendees from way beyond Cambridge. And because the November seems to be very popular kind of an event area where there's lots of events, kind of conferences happening, and because Cambridge is close enough to London to make it sense, we actually get a couple of people from US last year. Obviously, we had Chrissy from Quicc coming and kind of launching one of your new updates and your apps and talking to us about kind of building a community. And that, together with our community, together with other events, kind of attracted a couple of people even from the US, which I was like totally excited and overwhelmed by the fact that someone is coming to my tiny little event from the States.
And I mean, I know Christy and I spoke about this before, and it's probably one of the events that she liked the most. And I'm not just saying that; she genuinely did say that. She found it such a tight, close, kind of supportive community. I mean, when you go to other events, I mean, some of them can be like that, but most of the time, you kind of almost have like pockets of people, don't you? That kind of like that little group goes over here and that little group goes over there, and it's you just end up having little kind of like micro niches, kind of like tucked away. But at yours, it was just one group of just nice, chilled out, very kind of together people, and she really liked that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm hearing like a feedback the most is exactly what you said, like the friendly, supportive, welcoming vibe. And that's one of the things that I've been putting so much thought in. How can we make sure that we will replicate it or kind of support and offer this kind of atmosphere when we're doing it virtually? Because one thing I know how to do by now, by a couple of years of running monthly meetups and conferences and going to lots of other events, it's kind of understanding how the in-person events, how to set it up to help and support people to really get the most out of the networking. And new challenge this year was to figure it out, how can we facilitate in the best way possible an online conference that's not just a stream of webinars, that's not just you staring at a screen on your own in your home feeling overwhelmed because there is live tweeting and there's chat and there's this. And we really wanted to make sure that we will have this kind of very friendly, supportive vibe, the atmosphere, as you said, where you can sit on a table with random people every break. You can have a coffee with someone and get into conversations with anyone and everyone, connect, build new relationships, build new accountability groups, connect with new experts who can then help you in your business and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, like we spoke about this before, where I think what my personal take on summits is that some of them are actually really good still, but a lot of them are just very almost samey. And like you exactly said, is just having 20 or 30 speakers uploading those videos into a portal and saying, there you go, spend the next 30 days watching these. And it's like, is that really an event? Really? And I don't like that vibe myself, like personally, and I know you don't either. So how are you with your event? Because we're talking about Cambridge Social Media Day here. So this is, what's the dates of those?
It's November 17 and 18, so we're really close.
Really close. And guess who is speaking on the 18th of November? Because it's a really, really skilled guy who's on there, knows his stuff. I'm not quite sure what his name is.
Definitely knows his stuff, yeah. He looks quite like you, like he's very. Yeah.
Does he look like me?
Yeah,
Amazing.
he was looking a little bit more crossed in the picture. He has a look, so.
That's supposed to be my deep, thoughtful look, not my kind of like cross look. I'm trying to go for like the whole kind of vibe, not the kind of vibe.
But yeah, some people, especially when our designers saw the photos, we were like, are you sure you want to use this photo? Like, yeah, sure, it will definitely stand out.
It's a pattern interrupt. I'm all about pattern interrupts. So I know I'm going to be talking about YouTube and whether YouTube is the right kind of rabbit hole for businesses to go down to generate leads and business and to gain revenue, especially in an online world. So I'm talking more about YouTube strategy and tactics. So what other events and what other speakers and kind of niches and everything have you got going on to kind of foster that whole in-person event except virtual? How's that going to work?
Yes, so obviously there are two sides to it. We have a great lineup of talks and workshops and discussions, which are the place where you have experts and amazing professionals in the social media, digital marketing, talking about their expertise from delivering brilliant or planning for brilliant customer experience, generating leads from social media, converting them to your email list, converting them to clients, updates about social media news and trends, how to really utilize social media to get oversubscribed and really have the business. So we have all the relevant talks and then more deep dive workshops on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, advertising, and all the topics that kind of our team decided are the most relevant right now and going forward. But in between those, we have informal events. So we are not using just Zoom or any kind of live streaming. We have a special virtual conference platform. We've been looking into a couple, kind of trying to figure out which one will work the best. And we have decided to go with Remo, which kind of it pretty much looks like a virtual conference room. It's an actual, you will be in a virtual building with different floors, and you have different seats, and you have tables of 2, 4, 6, 8, and you can then on those tables have video chat conversations with people on your table. So it kind of facilitates the feeling of I'm sitting on a table with 5, 6 people and we're chatting about something. And if I see someone over there on another table, I can just click myself and go to the table and join that conversation with those people. We will have slightly themed the floors and tables. So if you're interested in LinkedIn, you know that these tables will be more focusing on talking about LinkedIn. And you know that these tables will be more interested in Instagram, and these will be more interested in the paid, and will be interested in content. So we're having these kind of options for people to set up one-to-ones. There will be small tables where you can just have a conversation with one person, or bigger kind of group table talks in between kind of the talks and sessions. And we will have bigger informal networking, again, where you can just mingle around and grab your cup of coffee, stuff like that. And in between all the trainings at the strategically placed moments, we will have facilitated sessions, be it intention setting, be it mindfulness, just to help people get a little bit out of their head and a little bit more into their body, really bring their energy up, feel the room, feel themselves, feel very alert. So during the days, there will be a couple sessions like this that, yes, you can take this time completely off and you can go and run in your garden or run around your house or just have a nap. That's fine. Or you can use these facilitated sessions to really help you refresh and energize. And at the end of the day, at the end of the days, we will have kind of a Facebook live party with some live music, open bar, which means you open your own bar and you have open bar. So hoping to bring some of the elements of in-person events where you have the table settings, you can move around the tables, you can have private conversations with people, you can have group conversations, and you can then join the after party with a drink and just relax.
So who would you say this is really mainly aimed at? I mean, when you talk about mindfulness sessions and things like that, I mean, some people know what that is and they're into that kind of thing. Other people may not necessarily be, but you are trying to cater for all groups. And part of the talk we're having today is about community. So it lends itself quite well to that question of how do you set up events, virtual or otherwise. Virtual right now, obviously. We're in the UK, we're going into lockdown again for another 4 weeks as of tomorrow. Well, midnight tonight. But how do you foster that community feeling with events that you serve one group but at the same time not alienate another group and still serve that other group in the same level? I mean, how do you get that balance right?
It is about kind of understanding who is your primary audience, who would be the people you believe would benefit the most from what you do. So I've started and set it up. This community and this event was created for freelancers, small business owners, kind of entrepreneurs, people who do their own social media marketing or have a very small team who can handle their marketing. And they really need to be able to understand what's new, what's relevant, and how to focus and how to very quickly and efficiently deliver results. This is still fairly open. So we have students from universities trying to build their brand. We have marketing consultants, marketing managers joining us. We have people who have bigger organizations and who are the CEO and who are really the serial entrepreneurs who have multiple hats and who just want to, again, potentially build their brand, build their thought leadership. But the key is understanding your community and the core community you want to serve. What are their pains? What are their needs? What are their preferences? And that's where my conference came, because I could travel. I could go to London and Newcastle, but I saw that the majority of my friends and colleagues and people coming to my meetups, they are single moms, they're parents, they have family members, they have more restrictions on travels, they don't necessarily have the finances or the need or interest to travel far. So the first goal was to bring what I was happy to travel for closer to home, and obviously make it affordable, because not everyone is willing or able to spend £300-500 on a conference, just the ticket, not counting the travel, accommodation, parties, and all the stuff.
It's not cheap, is it?
Well, some of the conferences are not, especially when we're talking in-person conferences. Going to those is definitely an investment.
For sure.
And I understood my community, I understood my audience, knowing that at this point in their career, in their business, in their life, they just can't. This is not something they can do. But I knew that they could benefit from some of the speakers, some of the talks, and from an event like this, bringing all people on a bigger scale together to really, because going to networkings once a month, it's great, but you can only do as much in one afternoon or 1 hour evening. So knowing that we will be together for a day or 2 days, we will see things together, we'll learn things together, we'll have something common to talk about, knowing that it really bonds people together. So
linking stuff to what you were saying.
I started thinking about the events and how to bring it together. And then it's just really about encouraging people and coming as an example to be, anyone is welcome, anyone is supported. We are open to all opinions and we will support everyone and anyone. And spotting if there is a potentially someone paying attention, listening, watching what's happening, if there's someone who might not be the right fit, and kind of dealing with that, making sure that they either understand what they might done wrong or how they can improve it, or just checking if they're the right kind of person. If they're not, just removing them.
And that's not always an easy thing either.
You need to come to this with empathy, with patience, with really desire to listen first and put yourself aside, put your ego aside, and take the criticism, take the negativity, and be able to very calmly handle it. But at the same time, there needs to be a certain level of assertiveness that really makes sure that you are kind of showcasing and that you're really living by your kind of purposes and by your goals and by your beliefs, and that you're showing them not only on paper, like this is our mission, this is our vision, these are our brand values, but that we're actually living them.
And that's part of branding, isn't it? I mean, if you say you're going to do a thing, you promise you're going to do a thing, and then you don't do a thing,
are
they going to believe you next time? Probably not, are they? And I mean, when you were saying about how a lot of people in your community either couldn't at the start, or they can't now because we're in lockdown, but traveling to in-person events. I mean, when I was at Social Media Marketing World back in March, when it was the last one I went to, because I think it was the last one in the States actually, I was actually quite almost surprised actually by the amount of people who I knew in the communities that like you and I are both involved with, who were there, but they were actually working. So they were volunteering at the event. And I spoke to some of them about that, and I was like, why are you volunteering? Why aren't you here for like business? And they were like, well, yeah, but if I volunteer as X amount of time, then actually I get my tickets to the event free. Otherwise I couldn't afford to come here. And I was like, oh. And I was very surprised by how many people did that. So I'd had loads of volunteers, ushering registration desks, like help support, drumming up FOMO, all sorts of stuff. But almost all of them did that to get their ticket free. So all they had to pay was travel and accommodation.
Yeah.
And that made it an affordable option for them. Otherwise they couldn't have gone because it was so expensive.
And on the other hand, this is what helps the event organizers in a way to get very committed. People who are aligned with the values, who really, don't see it as just another paid job, who really sees it. We do the same, lots of our people on the day on the ground, helping kind of managing the rooms, managing the drinks, managing the desk, helping people will be one of our community members, will be someone who has the time, is starting their own business, needs to really connect with people, needs to build the network, needs to be seen a little bit more, and potentially, again, they're spending the money as an investment would not be the best choice for them. So they offer their help, and for a little of their time on the day helping to manage, they get access to the network, they get access to the content, they have been seen as someone part of the community and someone worth getting in conversations with, getting to start relationship with.
Yeah, and that was a very, like I said, it surprised me by how many people did it. But when you watch it, like you say, they were very engaged. They were they were happy to be there. Big smiles on their faces. They're full of energy. And I remember thinking, like, so I was sitting in the lobby. I remember watching. I'm a bit of a people watcher like that, not in a weird way. But I remember watching the groups of people being welcomed by the volunteers, and I was thinking, that's actually a really good way of doing it. Like, really good, like the very definition of quid pro quo. It's genius. And
it's brilliant, and that's how we've always done it. So I've always say that Cambridge social media was designed kind of help me help you. I want to help you, but I can't do it all by myself. And I know that there's something that our community can do for you. So that's why our community managers are all volunteers. Lots of the people within the team are volunteers, and they donate some of their time in exchange for access to the community, ability to learn, potentially, some of them want to improve their CVs to get a job. Some of them want to change their career completely, so they need to upskill. Some of them are still students trying to finish and do this as a project. And some of them are entrepreneurs who generally just want to give back and understand the mission and the vision that I had and want to be part of it. But it is always the principle of help me, help you. What do you want to get out of it? It needs to be win-win situation.
Yeah, and tell you the other thing I like, and I mean, this isn't just like a shameless plug for Same as Social Media Day, given that I'm talking there, because I genuinely like the event. But what I like about the speakers is it's going to sound a bit harsh, but if you go to a lot of the events, it's a lot of like, how can you do blah, and how to do X, Y, Z, and play BC, or it's just very kind of, you hear the same talk by big established speakers because they are professional speakers. That's what they do. Even if you look at the speaker bios and profiles for established large influencers, then they'll actually say, I can give talk A on this, talk B on this, or talk C on that. And they take the same talk again and again and again, and they refine it, they perfect it, and that's how they make their living. So cool. Often it's almost like the mini version of like their book or their event or whatever it may be of their own thing. But at your event, it's more specific, more timely. It's more kind of trending topics. It's very on point, which is what I like. So like mine is going to be very much around social media strategies and tactics, specifically aimed at YouTube, because that's the topic. But a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is very specific around pandemic, how things are right now, current trends, current climates, current, the literally up-to-date algorithm changes and all that kind of stuff. You don't tend to get that. And I know lots of other speakers doing the same thing, but you don't tend to get that at larger events because the talks tend to be kind of evergreeny. And I like that about your event, is that it is literally new, on point, up to date stuff each time.
That's the whole plan. Even though I'm planning the speakers and the lineup for a good part of a year, I'm already planning 2021 lineup right now and looking at the people I would potentially like to get involved. At the same time, I always make sure that the speakers and the topics that we have, that they're relevant. So that's why we have Victoria Taylor as our opening keynote, because she is like the queen of customer experience and delivering brilliant online and offline and mixed experiences. And for me, this year is so much about understanding your customers and really going above and beyond to deliver a customer service. Even if you can't serve, if you can't sell, you can still connect and build a relationship with them and work on your customer journey and experience. So, and even people who are covering more generic topics, let's say, even if we have a talk about Instagram, if we have a talk about content planning, if we have a talk about Facebook ads, advertising, it is always what is the latest, what are the updates, what is happening right now, and how this might change in 2021 and how you will implement it. That's why I originally planned the event to be in November, to give people some time for November, December to plan and be ready for the next year with new updated strategy, with a better social media plan, and with really better focus on individual platforms to be able to be a little bit more on control and a little bit more strategic with their efforts. And that's the same why we don't always get the biggest, most famous people. That's why I'm usually trying to avoid having any like the headliners and all the speakers that, yes, I've seen 10 times and they done the exact same talk 10 times. Where we have smaller people who potentially have never done a keynote before or never done a workshop before, but I've seen their videos, I've seen their lives, I spoke with them, I know what they know and what they're able of doing, and giving them a chance to try it out, to really be part of something like this and to really share their insights, because they're the ones who really understand the craft and who are really able to share the latest and who will put effort into almost custom building, or at least tweaking to a fair amount their more general talk to be suitable and relevant and timely for this conference.
And like I said, I like that approach. I remember, the social media marketing world. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I was there for the entirety of the event, a few days before, a few days after, and I didn't go to a single talk, not one. And I know that sounds terrible. I spent most of my day networking at different events and parties and different hotel kind of what do you call them? The garden, roof gardens, that's the word. Yeah, roof gardens, all sorts of different things. And I basically lived in a lobby. I was doing lives with people, selfies with people, all sorts. I never went to a single talk because I looked at all of the titles of the talks and I'm like, yeah, catch that in replay. Yep, catch that in replay. Let's heard it before. No, don't need to know that. And I didn't go to a single one. And I know it sounds terrible to say, but none of them interested me enough to take time away from networking, which is what in my mind I was there to do, and building relationships with people one-to-one. Some of them interested me for sure to watch the replay, and I did, but none of them interested me enough to take time away from my core purpose of being there. And I found that quite surprising.
It is. It's always a tell of an event. What is the most important thing for you? And I think for us, it's always worked out really well that people did want to be part of the talks because they were fairly interactive. There were lots of chances for kind of Q&As. It was very custom built, so there was lots of really drawing the audience into it, and the experience of the talk was something that people were looking forward to, as well as they knew that there will be enough time for them to network, to make this value, to avoid skipping the talks. Obviously, with in-person events, having the recording and stuff like that, we've struggled with that over the years because the technology and the resources for making sure that we have the best video recording wasn't our priority. Our priority always was in the moment, on the day, which this year will be slightly different because everything is virtual and the recording is you press a button and it's done. But it still is something we always think about quite a lot, is making sure that the talks is something that you want to watch in real time. You want to make sure that you are there, you're asking your questions, you're watching a little bit the chat. because you want to really be present in the moment in the talk.
And I think when in Quicc, actually, we started announcing it slowly over the past couple of days. But the product we've been working on recently, I say recently, throughout the course of this year, really, we actually ended up accelerating it because of the pandemic. And I mean, a lot of what we were hearing from the events was, like you say, the replay wasn't really the thing. And what they preferred more was taking bite-sized chunks out of the content, like the real important, like the core elements, like the really key parts of their content. That's the bits people actually wanted to repurpose and use to kind of like bring the people who wanted to learn into the longer form content. So when we were looking at our own products, we do captioning, transcribing the video, we adding and burning captions into that video so people know us for that. But we're actually releasing a search and an indexing feature, which will allow you to caption a video and then make that all indexable and searchable. So you basically have it's like a video library search engine for your own content, which you can then clip whatever size snippets you want out of that and then just repurpose them however you want. And for our community, that was what we kept on hearing a lot was, I want to go to events, but either I can't afford to, I don't have the time to go to all the different talks, or even with the virtual summits, it was, I don't have time to listen to 30 different talks. I've only got 30 days to do it. And, I'm a family person. I've got kids kind of screaming in the background. I've got other commitments and everything else. And for us, we were looking for ways in which we could help speakers and event organisers, it's part of like why we're talking, to say, look, if you can snip certain pieces out of your content, show your audience what kind of things they could be expecting and do that easily, then it helps your audience to decide what pieces of content to spend their time on, what tables to go and sit on, what events to actually spend time at, what speakers they want to actually spend time to get to know more. And that's part of why we built the product we did. It was partly for events and speakers, but also for the audiences themselves to kind of help them filter through like the sea of knowledge that's available to them, because there's a lot. And that in itself is a challenge, isn't it?
It is definitely one of our biggest challenges with all the content that we're producing. We've been doing workshops online, and we do have an online database. We have resources where people can go and watch the full training with some additional resources to it. But then having the time to really watch the full video and be able to edit a couple of 30-second, 1 minute, 10-minute clips to be able to use on social media to not only straight away educate people and kind of offer helpful and interesting content, but also to then attract people to watch the full replay, to join our community and watch the rest in live, and obviously with the ongoing goals of join our email list, so you will then be part of our community. But this is something that for now we don't have a video editor on board, because that wasn't our priority to have someone who could do a video like video. But having a very quick and simple tool that will help you to find the right clips, edit them to get a caption, and then share them on social media is something that is definitely missing in the market. There isn't anything like that right now.
Well, there is now. We're launching it to our affiliates literally this week. So it's soon to be in the world. It's coming this week to affiliates. We're just going to work out some bugs in the beta process. The rest of the world next week or the week after. And everyone will have access to it. So off you go. I think one of the things that I'll be honest, one of the things we have not so much been struggling with, but we've been banging our head against the wall with, is that the captioning market itself has become very, very saturated. And we've seen that more and more in the technology companies over the course of the past year, because the move to online has been very quick. like Zoom's share price has obviously skyrocketed. You know, I think Zoom's actually in the dictionary now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is an actual thing.
They have just launched a partnership with, was it Otter, that they're doing real-time captioning.
Yep.
So yeah, having captions on your videos, because yeah, if you have something like a long Zoom interview training, then making sure that you caption it and that you then have the the copy available for accessibility purposes and everything. It is important, but for small businesses, small organizations, startups, charities, it is very time consuming, and it is still a skill that lots of people don't have. So having software, having applications that will take a lot of your hassle out of it, it's something that it's still much needed in the market, and especially things that, again, can do more than one thing. I'm definitely not a fan of having too many tools. I'm always waiting and strategically looking into all the tools that I'm using to make sure if I can find a new one or upgrade a one that will allow me to eliminate 2, 3 out of the complexity, which is something that you talked about when it came to video, kind of eliminating the points of complexity.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the core of my own business, my own personal brand. It's part of the core of Quicc as well. That's why, you know, I'm working with Quicc. Quicc works with me. It's just we mesh really nicely with our values, because Quicc is all about being heard and helping people to be heard. You know, that's hence t-shirt, be heard. You know, we try to walk our walk. So when we looked at the captioning market in general, you know, there's so many like SaaS companies coming in and just offering captioning, not quite as accurate, but kind of ish there. And it was just like a race to the bottom of the barrel on price, which wasn't a world where we want to kind of play in. And we're transitioning ourselves more kind of towards like a captioning, branded captioning. Yes, that's still very much a part of our product, but we're moving more towards like a video management tool than captioning and branded captioning, because to our mind, captioning itself isn't the thing that is going to kind of shift the needle for brands. You know, it's not the thing that's going to, you know, make an influencer go from a micro influencer to, you know, a larger influencer. That's not the thing that's going to level up their game. The thing that's going to level up the game is being able to create more content, or being able to get more value out of the content they do create.
Especially, especially
getting their message out there.
Get more out of the content that you have. This is one of the things I'm seeing as a challenge for the audience I'm working with. It's they're always chasing the next new piece of content, and because be it their time or skills, they are very much missing on so many opportunities of repurposing their content. And I know I do the same myself. We do the same. We are still missing out a lot on the ability to quickly and efficiently repurpose all the content that we have to get more out of it. And I know that this is where then the accelerated growth, exponential growth will come, because you can so quickly do a lot more with the same amount of content, with the same amount of core content, but you can multiply and you can very much magnify what you do.
I mean, you mentioned earlier Andrew and Pete. So, I mean, we work with those guys as well. You know, I love those guys. They're so funny. It was great to meet them in San Diego earlier on year also. And I mean, if you look at their community, or the Atomic community, I don't know the exact numbers myself. We've talked about it a bit, but I can't remember the exact number of hours. And even if I did, I don't think they'd like me to tell you. But even if you assume in their community, they've had a couple of Facebook Lives a week, giving like live workshops, so just like 2, maybe 3 a week, for the amount of time that they've been doing that for, plus their events and everything, you're talking hundreds, like literally hundreds of hours of content that is just sat there in a repository somewhere, just gathering dust. And I mean, to them, I mean, they're not stupid guys. They are very, very smart guys. And if you've got hundreds of hours of content going back years, content of which is evergreen, not timely and not trending, then why would you not utilize that? I mean, that's a huge repo of searchable, indexable, repurposable content just sat in a Facebook group somewhere.
And that's something that then really works hand in hand with outsourcing, that it's not something that requires your face on, because lots of their lies and things that requires their actual time doing it, their face, they need to plan and structure all these events. But then the repurposing, it can very easily be done someone from their team, someone, who has more time to do these kind of things. And again, making it a lot more effective, efficient for them to be able to help their organization.
I mean, one of the, funny if I'll give you a sneak peek into one of the things I'm going to tell people on my talk at your event, is to actually strategically weave in the way in which you deliver your content, is to weave in certain keywords and phrases into that content. And I've spoken to some of the speakers about this before, because we've been doing it for a while. And certain big influencers do this actively themselves, like Sean Canos of the world. He does it quite often. So when they're talking, they'll say something on stage, and every speaker I've spoken to says the same thing. They're like, I said something on stage. I didn't mean to say it. I didn't think about it beforehand, but I said it and I thought, that sounds amazing. I've got to remember that. But by the time they've stepped off the stage, they've forgotten about it. And you've spoken quite a lot. You'll know exactly what I mean. It happens a lot. So someone like Sean Cannell, he would say something and you'll see he'll pause for a second and he'll think, and there's the quote right there. And he'll say that phrase all the time when he's on stage, because he knows that when he's searching through the transcript of the talks that he gives, he'll just search for the word quote. And then whatever he's said for like 10 seconds or so before that, he'll snip that out and that will turn into all of the repurposable content. The tweets of the world, Instagram, carousels, IGTV snippets of that part of the segment, all of that. And he trains himself to say, and there's the quote, and he'll say it again, not because he wants to reinforce the quote onto the audience, but because he knows on stage at that moment that he can repurpose that for years to come. And there's a little snippet from my talk I'm going to give.
Brilliant. That's a piece of, again, it's a standalone piece of advice that, then you can repurpose for yourself, where this is, again, that's a quote. That's a piece of advice that it can work as a brilliant intro to your session, to anything, as a standalone social media content.
Yeah. And there's so much of that in talks. I mean, you've spoken on stage a lot, virtually and otherwise. I've spoken on stage a lot, virtually and otherwise. And I mean, even I can just, it's almost annoying when I'm thinking after talking on some event, I'm like, what was that thing I said? Can you remember that thing I said? Can you remember that thing I said? And everyone was like, you said a lot. You were talking for like an hour. And I'm like, yeah, but that thing. And I'm like, what thing? And no one seems to remember. And then I'm sat there watching the replay, trying to kind of remind myself of what it was. And I'm like, there you go. But like 45 minutes later, I finally get there. It's just very irritating.
It's just interesting, to be able to train yourself in a way when you're doing video, when you're doing talks, when you're delivering workshops, when there is something that really, and it could be often in the Q&A session, or you just somehow come up with a different example that something inspired you, to really be able to train yourself, to remind yourself and the audience, because, hey, it's also a good reminder for them to be like, "Ooh, this is a quote. Okay, what did he say? I will quickly tweet it because this is a quote." So it's a good advice for the audience as well, and helps with getting, the FOMO out there, getting the right snippets out, and it really helps people to take action and magnify what you do. But also, it's very helpful for you as well, and for your team then to be able to, you don't need to do it yourself, because this way you had to yourself search for it, because only you could figure out what was the one thing you wanted to say. But if you had a way of highlighting it, then again, your video editor could have spotted all these places themselves.
And by the way, if you need a good video editor, I will introduce you to mine, because the guy's nuts, but he's a genius.
Awesome. Always up for great recommendations.
And when I say nuts, I actually mean he's nuts. He's we spend like half an hour talking every couple of weeks, and probably about 5 minutes of it is actual work. The rest of the time is like what he did is an allotment or something for that afternoon. He's a very funny guy.
Well, it's good to have people like that. It's good to have people in your network. And it's part of, again, what we do, why we do. There is a common theme. We're all coming together because we want to learn about social media. But you will see that the conversations will vary from, the weather, politics, life, kids. And that's all the things that I always said, that people buy from people they like, that they connect with. And you want to work with people you feel more affiliated with. And this way, by just spending time in the same environment, in the same place for a little longer, it really allows you to get to know them a little better, have a couple more random conversations to see, like, you really are my person. You really are the person I want to work with. I want to build something together. I want to collaborate with. I want to be friends. I have examples of me going to networking and meeting people over and over again, to the point where we just started talking to each other at those networking events. I'm like, we need to change this. We can't just be meeting on these networking events, because then we end up talking to each other about movies and books. We need to be friends and go and do friends things. And right now we're working, so you talk to strangers, I talk to strangers. Let's be friends from tomorrow, and let's go for coffee.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did that at the San Diego.
Yeah.
So there was, I think that, and again, you talk about community a lot, and I think that's the power of it, is that, as you rightly said, people buy with the emotion first. They buy with connection. They buy from people, and then that leads on to kind of like the business stuff. You kind of, people buy into you first, but then they buy from you. And there's the quote right there. But the San Diego, I remember there was a bunch of people I met at I think it was like an early evening event. And literally, like, as one of them was like running out of the door because they had to go somewhere else, they were like, "We're meeting back here for breakfast. Come along. There'll be a bunch of other people. Don't know who, but there should be." And I'm like, "Okay." So I just went there in the morning. Didn't even know what time. I just rocked up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was about 20 people all having breakfast. And it kind of meshed from there. And I did that all week. It was just across San Diego. It's a nice way to do community.
And
sure.
that's exactly what we are all about. It's just have this help the universe, to connect the right kind of people with the right kind of people, the people who are on the same level, on the same energy, they have the same vibe, they feel that there is something for them, just to bring them closer and kind of help the place to really take place for these connections and stuff like that. So yeah.
And especially now, it's, I think that there's, I mean, we don't talk politics or anything on the show. We actively try to avoid it. And any kind of other kind of almost volatile topic we tend to stay away from. But what I would say is that right now, there's, in my mind at least, there's more need for like-minded community to stick together now than there has been for a very, very long time. Because it's, I mean, like my wife is an example. She's been working from home, hasn't physically interacted with any of her colleagues in her work since March. Not a single time. She's been working from home on her own or with me, depending on whether I'm here in the studio or not. Being mum, I'm at home a couple of days a week as well, a couple of days at the studio. When I'm at home, I'm dad. I'm kind of, helping out with everything. When I'm at the studio, I'm head down working. She's been at home the whole time, either on her own with nothing but like Spotify to keep her company, or, I have to pick up with the kids for a few hours before I get home. And it's a very challenging way to live. And I'm not gonna lie, she's been struggling with it. It's not easy.
It's very difficult situations for everyone. Like, there isn't someone who would have it easier, or there's different levels of challenges for all of us. But similar to me, like, I'm back in the Czech Republic for about a year now. I haven't lived here for about 7 years. I don't have any friends here. Like, or I have a couple of my old friends here, but we are such a different people when we were in university or high school together. So for me, my friends, my community, my kind of people, like even if I could go out and meet them, they're not here. They're back in the UK. They're all over the world. And usually I would travel around the UK or travel around the world. I would get to see them, and I would be at a different networking event, different co-working, different event every day of the week to meet these people. Right now, I'm in the middle of nowhere, the beautiful countryside, but there are no people. Like even if I was allowed to meet people, there are no people. So for me, the same. Yeah, in my room, I'm staring at some friends online to WhatsApp call, to message with them, to have online wine sessions, to be part of virtual networking events, to know that I have people, be it business, be friends, be social media support, to be like, if I'm struggling, if I don't know what to do, if something is overwhelming, just to really be, we need a support because there is a lot on our minds, there's lots to deal with. It is a challenging situation. It's not going to get any easier anytime soon, I'm afraid. And we need a place where we feel safe. We'll
So you cut out for a second there.
Yeah, just watching it is like what's happening with my internet today.
See, get talk about community and the internet starts getting overwhelmed and excited.
Yeah, it's always challenging, yeah, when it comes to, you don't want the technology for the sake of technology. So you're trying to see the human elements of the technology, but then there are moments where you're like, I'm sometimes really wishing that I did not work in social media marketing, that my life would not be so closely linked to my phone and my laptop, and I did not have to be spending my days just staring at a screen, and I could do something. Like so many times I'm like, I wish I could be a baker, or I wish I could do something with wood and just spend time in the nature and not on a screen. But this is the life we have right now. Pretty much all of us need to do this.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been at home with, well, with the wife and the kids, and say the kids have gone to bed, and I'm sat on the sofa, watching a bit of random TV with my wife or something, and I'll be on my phone sometimes, and she'll say, "Who are you talking to?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I'm chatting to Mike." I was like, "Oh, Mike from Quicc, Mike." I was like, "Yeah." So he's in Wichita, yeah. I was like, "Yeah, he's in Wichita." And it was like, "Anyone else you're talking to?" And I'm like, "I'm having a conversation with Rob as well." Rob, she's like, "That's the Tube Buddy guy." I was like, "He's in Canada, right?" And I'm like, "Yep, chatting to him." I was like, "Oh, okay. Who else are you talking to?" I was like, "I just chatted to Sam." I had Sam Barefoot, who I had on the show last week. It's just like, so you're talking to someone in Wichita, someone in Canada, and someone in Kent in the UK. And I was like, "Yep." She's like, "Okay, can you talk to me now?" And I'm like, "But I'm being social." She's like, she's still, and even I, to a degree, to be fair, I still struggle to get my head around being social through like a Facebook Messenger or something, because that's all you can really do at the moment. That's about as far as you can get. But it's not the same, but it's all you got.
Exactly. That's, we have to do.
Internet gone again.
How many Instagram? It keeps cutting off. Is it? Is it just me?
I missed the entire thing you just said then.
I was just looking at it like, are we supposed to talk, or are we all off? So what I was just saying is that I actually started getting more into not only like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, but for lots of people that I would occasionally meet somewhere in person, and we wouldn't potentially talk much outside. But I keep watching their stories on Instagram and stuff like that. I started actually, I see a story, I don't just react to the story by like one of those quick reactions, but then I'm just like, drop a message and like, hey, how are you? How are you actually doing? And sometimes just send a quick voice message to be like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's happening? And it's just so amazing to see the reaction of the people to be like, oh my God, it's so amazing to hear your voice. How's it going? And it might not lead to a long conversation, but for that moment, it really gives you just the feeling of just being connected to someone.
And that's a very underestimated kind of feeling at the moment, isn't it? It's yeah. I got to admit, I got a voice note from someone probably a couple of days ago now. I don't get voice notes very often. I get messages all the time. Like my email, like 4,000 unread emails. Most of it's just spam. I just don't, on my email box, it's just ridiculous. But I don't get the voice notes very often. And I got one from someone the other day. And I got to admit, I just sat there. I sat there and I thought, it's just nice to hear another human being's voice that's not my wife, my 2-year-old, sorry, my 3-year-old or my 5-year-old. Yeah, it's nice just to hear another human being. It was May King. I saw she's doing some promo for you, isn't she?
Yeah, she's doing amazing job with like interviews and just giving shout outs. She's been always part of the team speaking for us and running the whole social media life. But yeah, she's such a genuinely amazing human being. And yeah, I love just randomly getting messages from her, voice notes and stuff like that.
And they're always full of energy and full of life and so friendly feeling. That was the message I heard from her, was just like one of her normal, upbeat, lively, friendly messages. And I thought, oh, that was so nice. It almost sounded a bit sad when I say it, but it was nice to get one. Anyone who wants to send me a voice note, by the way, feel free, because I'm lonely. Not really, but yeah, it's not to be underestimated.
I remember a post on Facebook from Richard Tapp. He's like the Newcastle part of my family, and he was talking exactly about kind of his current pandemic routine, and one of it is having a walk and talk, and every day call someone else and have a quick talk with them. But often one of the things we talked about, and he talked about, is having some people, connecting with some people who have this upbeat energy. Sometimes it's okay to talk with anyone and everyone, and it's okay to moan, sometimes it's okay to complain, but sometimes you really want to have a chat with someone who is always upbeat, who is pretty much all the time high energy, positive, encouraging. Because just having those people in life, it's just such a gift for anyone to be. If you're in a need, if you're down, if you're not feeling right, if you're not sure, just message them or anything, and then or call them and get a message or call back from them. It really can make such a big difference to really kind of nourish this, proactively message to people, proactively send voice, a very random, like I'm not strategic at all with these. I see a story, I see a message, I think about something, I take my phone, I send a voice message, I send a message to people. And the same when I'm down, I'm like, ugh. And then you're like, oh, this person is like always very upbeat. I will message them. Maybe they will reply. And usually these energizers, they can handle a lot. So they will, shower you with their energy. And then you can share the energy further.
Yeah, 100%. Like, totally agree. I did the same thing yesterday because there was a client of mine who is just external to Quicc. They're very much into like holistic medicine, yoga, and kind of energy and everything. And we've been meaning to meet up for a couple of weeks. Hadn't got around to it because we've been so busy with my mutual things going on. And they said before lockdown kicks in on Thursday night, so Wednesday night, Thursday morning, do you want to meet up for that coffee? And I thought, do you know what? Yes. And so I went into London literally yesterday mid-morning, and we spent a couple of hours just talking a bit of business, talking a bit of like work, life, balance, and it was just nice just to from that perspective. It was more like relaxing energy because they're so chilled out, like so chilled out. It's ridiculous. But it really did just like level out my brain. And I think I needed that at the time. Certainly going into the next 4 weeks of being locked down. I think I kind of jumped at the opportunity probably quicker than I thought I would. But yeah, I felt I needed to, so I did.
And it's exactly what is kind of important. It's really this time gives us the chance to look in a little bit and just be more in tune with ourselves and kind of our bodies and our mindset, and really know that if something is pulling us towards sending a message to someone, if we can, to get together and meet someone and have a chat with someone who we might not have prioritized otherwise, just really understand and listen to it, and which kind of taking it back to the event. That's why we do have these facilitated intention settings mindfulness sessions, to really help people not only with the factual social media marketing, but with their personal development and with their mind, and with their mindset in this challenging situation, not only during the event, but kind of overall.
Words of wisdom. I mean, we normally try to keep these to about an hour-ish. We've gone a little bit over, but it's okay because it's you. So wrapping up, parting words of wisdom. Obviously, check out social media day, so Cambridge Social Media Day, because you can still get some tickets. It's still available. Get those while you can. Obviously, check out cambridgesocial.media. So all the information is on there. Social channels is on there. Anything you want to connect with Lenka on, then feel free, do so. She's awesome, obviously. But to you, words of wisdom, parting words of wisdom for leaving the audience with, what would you say?
I think finishing on what we just talked about, it's important just to allow yourself to feel how you feel, be kind to yourself, be aware, try to listen to your body, your mind, your feelings. Don't judge yourself too harshly. Don't look too much on social media. Like, yes, I do work in social media marketing, but knowing how to manage your own consumption of social media and what to take from it, it's very important. So just make sure that you are taking care of yourself. You're putting yourself, your own mind, your own body, your own personal growth, your personal development, your family first, no matter what's going out and about. One of the things I've learned on my journey, it's if I don't do something straight away, it's not going to go anywhere. If I put myself first, I will be in a much better position to deal with all the things I need to deal with tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, the day after, over the weekend. I don't care. But put yourself first and be kind to yourself.
Words of wisdom. Done. Mic drop, if I had one.
I need to have like an animation or a sound. It'd be like, boom.
I do have sound effects because I got a Rodecaster Pro. It's like my toy. I'm not quite sure what this... I don't have a mic drop effect, although I do need to find one now. You suggested it. I've got that.
It will work.
Close enough. That's a scary one.
No scary. We want to finish off on a very calming, positive, happy, supportive note. And that's what I keep telling people about Cambridge Social Media Day. That if not for anything else, not the amazing talks, not the networking, we really want these 2 days to be positive, to be friendly, to be supportive. So if people don't want to come for that, but they need a place, a happy place, I think this will be the place as well. We're trying to make it a happy place.
And I'll be there. So obviously it's worth getting a ticket purely just to see me and my bullshit. Obviously. So thank you very much for joining. It's been a pleasure as always. Cambridge Social Media Day 17th and 18th.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
November. I can't remember that.
There, and I hope to see everyone else there as well.
Perfect. Mine's going to be live as well, isn't it? Why did I choose that? It's like, how many people are doing live talks? Is it just me?
No, everyone.
Oh, get in. I'm not the only one.
Everyone is doing live talk. Everyone will be in real time. There's nothing pre-recorded. There's nothing, everything will be happening in the moment with the audience.
Perfect. That wasn't pre-recorded. Was an option, wasn't it?
There was an option. We did offer.
No one took it.
They want to. No one took it.
Awesome. So we're all awesome. Happy days. I'm surrounded by awesome people. I love that. Sorry, I digress again. Anyway.
No, I'm very happy. Like, this is, again, like, I like this kind of an ending of like, yes, we are surrounded by awesome people and it will be an awesome event.
Happy days. I'm looking forward to it. So next week we have an extra special guest. I won't tell you who, but Lenka and I both know her, and this is a her, and she's in the social media world. She is very, very cool, slightly quirky, a bit nuts. Not quite sure how it's going to go, but it should be quite amusing.
That sounds like good fun. I'm definitely tuning in.
Yes. So thank you, everyone. Have a good morning, afternoon, day, wherever you are joining in the world, live or replay. And we will see you in the next video next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.